April 1st, 2008. IGN releases an April Fool's Day joke that to this day I'm still being tagged in. Netflix to adapt The Legend of Zelda into a TV show. Anyone who's a Zelda fan and spent any time at all on the internet in the past decade has probably seen this video, which admittedly for its time and budget can be convincing. But the fact that this fake trailer is still circling the web over 12 years later in articles on numerous clickbaity websites only shows the continued demand and interest that people have for a Legend of Zelda film or series. But what would this look like? First, I think we should ask some preliminary questions. Should it be a movie or series? Live action or animation? Which game or games should it be about? We'll answer all of these, but to start, I think it's best to tackle which game it should revolve around. I asked my followers over on Twitter their thoughts and got many differing suggestions. The most popular choice was Twilight Princess, but there was also a lot of votes for Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker. As a result, I'll use those as examples going forward. Whilst you can make arguments for most Zelda games to be adapted in some form or fashion, the overall consensus was that it should be something on a grander scale, and that condensing a Zelda title into a movie would be too difficult to do and could leave a lot of room for error. So with that established, we need to be able to tell the story over a longer period of time to convey the best story and for it to be fully fleshed out. The best format for a possible cinematic production of The Legend of Zelda would be a series. So, should it be animated or not? The Legend of Zelda is no stranger to animation, but before we get to that, let's look at the possibility of a live-action series. Being a live-action fantasy series poses the risk of many pitfalls and hiccups. Let's look at the budget to begin with. There's no doubt that any show produced by Nintendo would need to be up to their standards of quality and would require an immense amount of funding to give it the credibility it deserves. As such, we should look to shows like Game of Thrones or The Witcher as examples. Going off of their first seasons, Game of Thrones had a budget of $60 million, and The Witcher had a budget of $80 million. In comparison, the cost of creating an anime is a bit more up in the air. Anime News Network reports that according to Masamune Sakaki, a CG creator in the anime industry, an average 13-episode anime season costs around 250 million yen, or roughly $2 million. This doesn't take into account genre or production restraints that could also make an anime more expensive. With something like Zelda, a series that would need to be a lot longer than 13 episodes, it would be hard to narrow it down to an exact price with all the variables in place. But to play devil's advocate for a moment, let's say we have a 4-core Zelda anime that runs the length of a whole year, roughly 52 episodes. At a production cost of $2 million per 13-episode season, we'd be looking at roughly $8 million of production cost.
Quick maths!
Without factoring in marketing and other unseen costs, it seems likely that anime production has the possibility of being cheaper for Nintendo. Is this a lowball example? Definitely. The likely case is that it would be far more expensive than $8 million a year, but could be a much more financially viable option instead of a live-action series. In fact, I'm more inclined to think Nintendo would go the animation route. Here's why. As stated before, Zelda is no stranger to animation. We first saw Zelda presented in the medium as the Legend of Zelda cartoon series. For better or worse, the original cartoon gave us a good look into what Nintendo had in mind for the Zelda series at the time. Thankfully, as time has gone by, the series has matured, and the likelihood that we'd end up with this again,
Oh boy, smooching time!
is very slim. In addition to the games, it's also important to note that a lot of the Zelda series have a manga adaptation as well. While they're not technically canon, most of the Zelda manga out there add to the overall stories and will present additional material to adapt from. Nowadays, Nintendo uses animation in anime cutscenes very frequently. Back in 2016, we saw Nintendo release Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins, a short CG animation created by IG and WIT Studios. Additionally, we've seen a similar art style in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Three Houses animation was done by Takashi Sano and Sanzigen, an animation studio specializing in 3D cel-shaded CGI animations. While both of these are extremely impressive examples, I firmly believe that were Nintendo to make a Zelda anime, it would have very little CG and rely more heavily on a hand-drawn art style. We only need to look to Link's Awakening to see this. Link's Awakening is a prime example of what we could expect. The opening and ending animations for Link's Awakening were created by a very small animation team consisting of only 7 people. Of those 7, the 2 most notable are Junichi Yamamoto, the director, and Oswaldo Kato, responsible for the concept art, color design, and backgrounds. Yamamoto has many directing credits to his name, and Kato also seems to have a bit of experience as a storyboard and concept artist. Together, their small team created one of the most impressive Zelda animations we've ever seen. But with this small of a team, tackling an actual series would be next to impossible. I definitely think if there is ever a Zelda anime, that Yamamoto and Kato should be involved in some way, as their work really speaks for itself. But an animation befitting a full-length Zelda game is going to need a lot more manpower. This is where we should discuss the possibility of the streaming services having involvement. We've seen Netflix start to dip their money-covered hands into the video game adaptation cookie jar with series like The Witcher and more notably Castlevania. Castlevania has seen a huge success thanks to its dedication to the source material and producer Adi Shankar. Castlevania has been such a huge success that Shankar is now in works to adapt other well-known gaming franchises like Devil May Cry, Assassin's Creed, and Hyper Light Drifter. The case of Devil May Cry is an interesting one. Before the official announcement that Shankar would be working on a Devil May Cry project, rumors were rampant online that Netflix was finally adapting The Legend of Zelda. Even though this rumor turned out to be about Devil May Cry, it reiterated the demand for a Zelda series. With that being said, there's no concrete proof whether or not Netflix would be the one to do the adaptation. Besides, with the Switch still not having a Netflix app, there is the possibility that the 2 companies simply don't want to work together. Amazon would be foolish to make any type of fantasy show since they're putting all their eggs into the Lord of the Rings basket. It could pull attention away from this giant series they are dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into by creating competition on their own platform with multiple high fantasy shows. While Hulu does have a Switch app, it doesn't appear that they nor Funimation have any tie directly to Nintendo beyond that. Funimation is more dominantly involved with dubbing and distribution, so it would be more likely that a Zelda anime airs on Hulu but isn't created by them. So the streaming services are out. But what about every Zelda fan's dream animation studio taking up the helm? Of course, I'm talking of famed Studio Ghibli. Studio Ghibli has created some of the most timeless and beautiful animated films ever. It's a no-brainer that any Nintendo property, let alone Zelda, would be done incredible justice with Studio Ghibli behind the wheel. Is it likely? Unfortunately not. In fact, Nintendo's tried it before. Studio founder and genius behind Ghibli's most acclaimed films, Hayao Miyazaki, was set to work with Nintendo on a new game project. Miyazaki's busy schedule ultimately led to Nintendo giving up on the idea. That, in addition to the high cost to employ Studio Ghibli, makes it very apparent that Nintendo probably won't be working with them anytime soon. As heartbreaking as it is that we'll never see a Skyward Sword movie in this beautiful art style, it's important to remember that Nintendo has taken a huge inspiration from Ghibli. Breath of the Wild pulls heavily from Princess Mononoke to the point where it would be meaningless for Ghibli to adapt Breath of the Wild into a film. So where does this leave us? Well, there's one more officially licensed Nintendo work that we should look at. In 2014, we got arguably our best look into what a Zelda anime would look like. The Super Smash Bros. Trailer announcement for Palutena, Goddess of Light. This trailer starts with Palutena watching Pit and Link fighting. To go back to the question of which game should be adapted, it's important to recognize that the Link depicted in this trailer and Smash Bros. Most closely resembles the hero of Twilight. The art style is hand-drawn, the fight choreography is very well done, and we even get to see Link use his arsenal of tools. This amazing trailer was done by the incredible Shaft Inc. Shaft have put out numerous anime productions but are synonymous with the Monogatari series, which coincidentally is one of my favorite anime. Monogatari has some of the most interesting direction that you'll see in any anime. The show often changes art style and throws countless cryptic messages at the viewer. The series also doesn't flow in chronological order, leaving the viewer with this constant state of discovery and confusion, which makes for a really unique storytelling. Akiyuki Shimbo is the show's director, and his off-the-wall storytelling has made him famous. He's also the one responsible for Shaft's infamous head tilts. It's hard to say who the exact animators were in the Goddess of Light trailer. I personally couldn't find any crediting for them. As it stands, this is the best look we've gotten into what a Twilight Princess or long-form Zelda game adaptation could look like. Shaft has the experience, reputation, and working history with Nintendo to be a credible option should the Big N ever decide to adapt one of its crowning jewels. If the day comes when we finally see The Legend of Zelda as some form of medium besides video games, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say it would be an anime or long-form series. The success Nintendo is having with the Switch and with Super Mario getting a film made by Illumination, it's well within the realm of possibility that it will happen. Nintendo is only continuing their inclusion of animated cutscenes in their games, and it really seems as though they are testing the waters. I guess only time will tell. But you guys tell me, which Zelda game do you think would be best represented as an anime or TV show? Leave your responses down below in the comments section. Thanks so much for watching my subpar shitty content. If you'd like to see more Zelda content or content like this, please be sure to subscribe. Make sure that you like the video only if you liked it and dislike it if you disliked it. Make sure to follow me on all of my socials, links will be down in the description, and until next time, I'll see you in the next one.